Today on the Pro-Life Podcast, embryos frozen 30 years ago are only 3 years younger than their parents. This is weird, and your legislature needs to get on the ball. We need to talk about this. Let's get started. Happy Thursday, Pro-Life family. Welcome to the table. Grab your coffee or your water or however you've chosen to hydrate or dehydrate yourself, as we're apparently discussing that I'm in favor of dehydrating myself. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Let's introduce ourselves to the guests at home.
Kim Schwartz, Director of Media and Communication.
Michaela Vaughn, Director of Education.
Brett Clearman, IT Director, and somehow frontman for this thing. I'm still 3 years, don't know how that happened. Okay, so this story came out of, and this one's actually a little newer because it's almost weirder. The first thing I saw on my Instagram feed during the week came up that it had been 30 years since the previous oldest frozen embryo, like frozen in 92, was donated to someone who was born in 91. The mom had this child nearly 30 years, or 30 years later. That's why it came up. And now there's a slightly older pair of twins that were born, frozen in the 90s. So they're officially like 30 years on ice before being born to parents in their 30s. I'm not even sure where to start discussing this.
It's really an interesting story, and like what you said earlier is that it's a very well-intentioned couple. Like,
Right.
And so, yeah, these 30-year-olds adopted embryos. They were implanted, gestated, and gave birth to children who were just about 3 years younger than them. So
From moments of conception.
Yes,
right?
from the
But-
moment of conception.
Right, but then we look at the birth dates and it's 30 years apart.
Exactly.
Something, yeah.
It's just a really weird sci-fi story, but it opens a lot of questions of like, yeah, you get these like pretty crazy stories that like the children and the parents are like kind of the same age.
Yeah, and I think we should start by saying the frozen embryos, 30 years later, a couple decided to adopt them, gestate the babies, and they were born. That's a good, and like I said, very well intentioned. It was actually a Christian couple. There was a problem of what are we going to do with
Right.
these million plus embryos we have that are frozen that are deserving of life.
And they got these embryos from a Christian nonprofit who helps basically get these kids from frozen, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of in this
Frozen
limbo
state,
state.
yeah.
Right? And so they're frozen for 30 years and finally get to be born.
So I want to first recognize that it's the lesser of two evils. Like, it's better that these children are born. They're able to
Yes.
have a life,
Yes.
but their life should have started 30 years ago.
Correct.
Or their life did start 30 years ago. We put it on pause.
Right.
Maybe it's
Whatever you
is a
go-
way to say it.
So then if they make it into their 90s, are they 120? I'm real confused now. Like, how old are they really?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and the fact that we're taking embryos from the 90s that have been frozen, because this is a problem. We have a lot of children on ice. That is a weird sentence. We have a lot of children on ice.
Not Disney on Ice. It's very different.
There's a lot of children there too, but
Yes, they're
in a
not
very
on
different
ice.
state.
Yeah.
And so these nonprofits, and obviously if there's a nonprofit involved, good Christian nonprofit trying to help the situation, nobody ever starts a nonprofit because everything is fine, nothing is wrong, there's not a problem to deal with. Like, obviously there's an issue here. We have children on ice. Okay, when we continue this thoughts, but we're not birthing them at a rate to keep up with how many more children we're freezing. So the problem just keeps getting bigger of what do we do with all these kids that we've conceived and have no plan
Yeah.
for what to do with them now.
Yeah.
And for those of us, if you're watching this, you probably are of a like mind that life began at conception. So these are lives that are frozen. And so we can't just, let's unplug the freezer.
Yeah.
That's mass murder on a scale that only dictatorships have ever achieved.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just keep making the problem bigger, though.
Yeah. And that is actually, there's an argument. So with embryo adoption, like, it's better for the child to be born rather than to be frozen forever. But there's also the problem that if we continue with embryo adoption, there's a question of like, does it feed the IVF industry even more? Does that incentivize them more? So there are more questions too with like embryo adoption. I think it can create a beautiful life for the child, but we can't like just ignore some of the questions and moral problems that could arise. Yeah. So there's those questions. There's also the issue that whenever a child is frozen, the odds of them surviving just being thawed are very slim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever the preborn child, you got the whole fertilization that takes place in a little petri dish, and then they observe the embryos. At that point, they're actually like zygotes and blastocysts in the very early ages. But we're going to say...
We're going to be super nerds, yes.
We're just going to say embryos for the sake of this conversation. So they observe them, and then they preserve them in these cryoprotectants. It's like a big hodgepodge of chemicals to prevent ice crystals from forming when they're frozen. Then they freeze them. And so it's difficult for the child to survive that. And then when being thawed, there's a common occurrence where the child will lose a cell in being thawed, which is a pretty big deal because these children only have like a handful of cells at this stage in life anyways. And so that's what prevents them from being more viable. It increases the odds that they're going to die before even being implanted, or they're implanted and they don't survive very long. So all of these issues arise for like the child even at the point of implantation. So children conceived in IVF are more likely to have autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, advanced bone age, 40% increase in birth defects. And there's more to this list, but those are some of the big ones. So all of these children who are being conceived in IVF, they're being treated as products to make the parents happy instead of blessings from the Lord. And even whenever you try to like redeem this situation with embryo adoption,
like these parents.
Yes,
From the
the
story.
children still like have that that burden that's going to follow with them the rest of their lives. And so all of this is just to say that there's this IVF industry that is preying on parents who have good intentions, who want children. We've read enough stories to say that not everybody who pursues IVF has good intentions. There's some really horror stories.
Yes, there are some terrible stories.
Yeah.
See previous episodes.
Right. But the IVF industry doesn't really care. And there are better methods to treat infertility that are natural, that are cheaper for the parents, that actually like have higher success rates than IVF. They just don't get as much attention because IVF is like, oh, the shiny new thing, and the expensive things that kind of feeds the bottom line of these companies.
So, did you see the other article I put in the chat about donating? This company is trying to get women to donate their eggs, or they'll freeze their eggs as long as you donate half of them.
Oh,
You can freeze your eggs for free if you donate part of them.
What are we doing with the other half?
good question.
Where did those go?
Don't ask questions.
It's very don't look over here. That was a little concerning, and then just kept scrolling. I just kept like, this is weird, and this needs its own episode or something. That's a whole rabbit hole. But I feel like we keep doing this. The IVF industry doesn't care about helping people. Doesn't really care about. I mean, I'm sure there are some people in those companies who got into it because I want to help families. But the company isn't doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
Not so much.
Yeah, I think one of the things that scares me about if embryo adoption is seen as something that should be grown, because right now we can say this instance, good intention, that child conceived 30 years ago should
Right.
live, but I don't want to see embryo adoption being pushed. There's what you were mentioning about all the negative side effects to the children created through IVF, and then think how much more exacerbated that would be if the child has been frozen for 30 years. Because what you're talking about are just IVF overall, and I can imagine logically it'd be worse if...
Longer spans of time.
Yeah, I would think so.
We don't really get to know because we don't.
I was looking
There's not enough studies on this. We just kind of do this experiment and see what happens.
Yeah, I was looking it up. If there's an increase in like defects or other like side effects or anything that come with a longer freezing, and they basically said that like there's not enough research to show. The IVF companies will be like, right, there's no correlation. Like it doesn't matter how long or short your embryo is frozen. But then other sites will say like we really don't have enough research to see.
Yeah, well, just because there isn't the research out there, it doesn't mean it isn't true.
Yes.
But I also think there's a psychological impact on the adopted child.
Yep.
Because IVF is a form of eugenics. You create all of these embryos. The doctor comes to you and says, I've ranked your children. Number one's going to be the best child. We're going to bring you the most amount of happiness. You can even pick the gender. So if you want a girl, choose number one. If you want a boy, number two is pretty good. Number three, I'd suggest, but once you get down to number 8, 10, we should freeze those kids. So then, let's say these children were their embryos were, as embryos, they were donated, they were adopted. Now they're living, they get older. What about me? That my parents not want. They chose to let my sibling live, but there was something about my gender, my genetics, predisposition to possible genetic disorders that they may have had. Yeah. But their life isn't any less.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're not a less valuable human.
Yeah.
But they didn't make the first or second cut? That, yeah, I can't imagine there'd be any psychological damage from that.
No. Well, let's talk about some good news.
Okay. We can talk about good news. We're going to take a break first for this important information. Do you have a cell phone? Do you have pro-life values? Do you like saving money? Well, Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and they've partnered with Texas Right to Life. So if you'll go to patriotmobile.com/Texas Right to Life or call 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, and use the checkout code TRTL, they'll give you a free month of service. So make the switch today. Have your money support causes you believe in and save and get a whole free month. Make the switch right now. What are you doing still watching this? Make the switch right now.
Want to support a cause you love and look great doing it? Visit the Texas Right to Life online store. You'll find t-shirts, hats, mugs, bags, everything you need to rep the pro-life movement wherever you go. Plus, you'll get free shipping on every order. Listeners like you, yes, you, can get 15% off when you use code PODCAST at checkout. Visit store.texasrighttolife.com today to shop with purpose and make a difference.
Welcome back, friends. Please visit our store. It's really cool. Put a lot of work into it. Kim worked really hard on some of those designs.
Yeah, I need to reorder some actually because I wear my Texas Right to Life shirts so much that they get holes in them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they definitely, it's been like 5 years of wearing them, so it'll do it.
Mine have some mileage as well. And I probably need to go back to our store and buy a couple more. Okay. We want to talk happier news because that last story was super weird. And sometimes I just want to go, even as a technology guy, I'm like, we have enough technology. We can stop now. Let's understand fully all of the things we've already made before we make any new, weirder.
Right. We've
things.
got enough technology now. We can stop.
It's the Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
That's what we're living in, guys.
I know. I've never seen that movie, but I get the point. I know there's more than one, but it used to scare me, so I just did it.
Yeah, I get that. And yeah, there are scientists trying to do that. Tangents. Okay. we need to cover first the legislature because there are some deadlines coming up, and our fine folks at home are going to want to keep up with that and maybe call their legislator and tell them what to do because you are their boss. You voted for them, or maybe you didn't, but still, they work for you. So tell them what to do.
So you're well aware that we're in the middle of the legislative session, and this is important because if we don't pass pro-life bills before June 2nd, we will not have another chance until 2027. The governor could call like a special session or something like that, but looking at like what's in front of us right now,
Right.
2027 would be our next chance. So that's why it's really important to get these over the finish line. We've talked about before, we need to stop illegal abortions and we need to stop tax-funded abortion travel.
Correct.
So good news so far, but it's not over yet. So don't just think like, oh, yeah, we did it. Everything's going great. Everything is going well, but it's not over until it's over. All of our bills have passed the Senate so far. Now they go over to the House. That includes, go ahead.
And historically, the Senate tends to be quicker about getting these things done.
They do.
There's less of them.
Yes.
So they bicker less about changes they'd like to make or why we're voting for this thing.
Right. Fewer cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
Makes it
When
easier.
you multiply that by like 5, it takes a little longer.
It does. It does. So the Senate got all of the pro-life bills, including the 2 pro-life priority bills, the Women and Child Protection Act, Senate Bill 2880 for those nerds who like bill numbers. That's the one that will crack down on illegal abortion pills being sent in the mail or smuggled around the southern border. Yeah, so that would be huge. And if we passed that one and signed it into law, that would make Texas the first state to actually target the underground abortion industry and set an example, I think, for the rest of the nation. So that'd be a really big deal. And Planned Parenthood hates this bill.
Shocker.
They came out in the committees and like were just, hammering like you vigilantes, you snitches, like really, really just hammering. They hated this bill. So that's how you know.
Bounty hunter.
Bounty
That was
hunter.
the other word.
Yeah.
Right.
That was they repeated.
Yeah.
I could tell that the witnesses had talked about what they were going to say because I haven't heard that one before. Oh, and okay, 5 people are saying this word now.
That's your bingo
Okay,
card.
well, just call me the Mandalorian, protect the child.
Yeah, fair
This
enough.
is the way.
Fair enough. So Planned Parenthood really hates the Women and Child Protection Act to stop illegal abortion pills. And then our other priority bill is the Stop Tax-Funded Abortion Travel Act. It does exactly what it says. It would stop tax-funded abortion travel. Cities like Austin and San Antonio using tax dollars to pay for plane tickets, hotel rooms, Uber rides to abortion appointments.
We're going to use San Antonio.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop it.
So I have hopes for those bills. They all passed the Senate. Now we're all looking at the House. The House is usually slower, and our big deadlines we're looking at too. For May 15th, that's when all the House bills have to pass out of committee. And then May 27th is when all the Senate bills have to pass the House. So we have basically 2 chances to get pro-life bills out of the House. Either they can pass the House version, which is identical to the Senate version. It doesn't super matter which one you pass, like text-wise. And then if they don't do that, if May 15th passes, they could pass the Senate bills into law. So go from the Senate to the House to the governor's desk, basically, is the short way to do that. So there's a lot to do still with a small amount of time. Like May is going to go by faster than you think. And there's just a lot of steps to do it. So you have to have a House committee hearing. The House committee has to vote the bill out of committee. Then it goes to the calendars committee, which says, like, we're the people in charge of scheduling this bill. I mean, every bill has to go through them. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's where things could slow down. And then you've also got they've got to vote on it on the House floor by May 27th. That's everything that we have to accomplish just this month. So be in prayer for those. Make sure you contact your lawmakers about it. But things are moving, which is good, but it's not done.
And we really need you to contact your lawmakers and to pray. This isn't just something that you hear about. Maybe you'll talk to a friend if this really moved you. But I had a friend and she was a staffer, and she made the comment that if there's a morning and they receive 5 phone calls or emails on the same issue, that made it to the elected official's desk. And they, in their like discussion as a staff, would talk about, yeah, this bill is a big issue. 5 phone calls. That's one family.
I know 5 people.
Yeah, do you know 5 people?
I have 5 people in my house. Yeah.
Exactly. So go to the links in the description and send an email or a phone call, and we'll tell you what to say. But we need these bills.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. Because people don't call.
No.
Right? Like we look at voter turnout, and you've got all of these registered voters, which isn't even everyone.
Yeah.
It's not everyone's a registered voter. And then of the registered voters, you get this really low turnout, especially when it comes to state-related things.
Yeah.
So it actually does matter.
Yeah, definitely.
You make your voice heard. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's move the needle. Okay, last piece of good news. It's not related to Austin. It's actually in the Woodlands.
Woo!
Yeah.
Up the road.
There is a Safe Haven baby box that was installed this week. It is the first one in the Houston area. There's a handful across Texas. You've got Abilene, Lubbock, Corsicana, a few more. You can read about it on texasrighttolife.com. So I'm glad that this issue is getting spread, because Texas is the #1 state when it comes to infant abandonments. And we've covered a lot of those horror stories
Yes, we have.
on this show. And so we don't need to go into detail of when infants are abandoned.
Thank you. I hate those.
Yes, good. But it is important to know that there is a life-affirming alternative for parents who feel like they aren't equipped to raise their children. I think it's up to 30 days after the child is born, maybe 60. They can surrender their infant anonymously in these Safe Haven baby boxes. So I'm glad to have one in the Houston area now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We do have like baby Moses laws where you can take the child to a police station or fire department. This is like completely anonymous. So if they're like, I can't even face people to do this, there's still an option, right? So, and it's in the Woodlands, and it's not even that far from us, and I'm very happy that we've done this. There's one we did another story. There's another Texas one, like San Antonio has.
San Antonio or a central Texas city is working on it. I can't remember if it's Austin or San Antonio. I think it's Austin.
Yeah.
Or somewhere around there.
So,
Yeah.
I hope these become more of a thing.
Yeah, and I think it really helps us fight the pro-birth narrative that we're not really pro-life. We're only pro-baby until it's born, and then we're out of the picture. But what we're able to show with our actions with, pregnancy resource centers and then with the Safe Haven box is we are so pro-life and pro-baby, pro-toddler, pro-child that
Pro-human.
give us your baby and we will find a safe, loving family for it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not too much to ask.
No, it's really not. Okay, friends. So it is National Day of Prayer if this is dropping when I think it is. So obviously pray for your legislature today and every day because doggone they need it. And call them, tell them the bills listed that we talked about, the description below, all that information, which bills they need to prioritize. Call them, get 5 phone calls. Do you have 5 friends? I think you have 5 friends. I'm sure. You seem like a likable person. I bet you have 5 friends. Get them to call too and get these bills moving so that we can make them laws. Okay, friends, we will see you again in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Peace out.